The rich universe of Dungeons and Dragons and Forgotten Realms offers us a lot of interesting stories to learn and tell. In this video I want to introduce you to the genesis of my original character, Seldarine Drow Patricia Bruyn, whom I have the pleasure of playing in Baldur's Gate 3. The story of my character tries to be faithful to the lore of Forgotten Realms, but appropriately bent to the world we get to know in the game realized in 2023 by Larian Studio. So I invite you to listen to it. For as long as I can remember, I have lived in the town located underground in the high forest. As one of the advocates of assimilation with the surface creatures, I became a liaison, a compaying merchant in the surface trade with humans and light elves. Nothing good lasts forever, and one fine day we were ambushed. On the surface we were attacked by a male troop of Loth Drow. They ruthlessly slaughtered almost everyone we traded with that day, mostly humans, a few elves, and dwarves. We, the Drow of Eilistraee, were taken prisoners. We were pulled underground and according to the hierarchy that prevails among Loth Drow, were led before the matrons who would decide our fate. After a brief audience, the Drow priestesses went to the one side to confer on what to do next. As we all waited in the cells, I heard whispers from the guards that we were to be sacrificed to the Spider Queen Loth. As a devoted follower of Eilistraee, I would have done anything to avoid such death. It was certain that if we stayed here we would all die. Days passed, and the execution still didn't take place. In the meantime, I managed to charm and become better acquainted with one of our Drow guards. Kierra had a conflict with the matrons, who regularly severely humiliated him and his kin, and even make a show of killing one of them in gratitude for completing a task in honor of Loth. He had no doubt that his turn would soon come, but secretly he wasn't a follower of the Spider Queen but Lord of Murder Bhaal. Since I catch his eye and he had ambition to please his true god, he proposed a deal to me. In exchange for making a pact with Bhaal and helping in the planet uprising against the matrons, they will spare our lives, all of us worshippers of Eilistraee. Having nothing to lose, I agreed, and a moment later in a special shrine I made a pact with Bhaal, whose followers believe that he will one day return and destroy all life in the Forgotten Realms. After one ceremony, it was time for another. We were led before the matrons, who effectively announced that we, the filthy worshippers of the pseudo-deity, along with some of the Drow serving, Loth, would be sacrificed. However, we were prepared for this and I was ready to fight alongside my new brothers in the fate. But to my surprise, instead of going on the matrons with the remaining Drow of Eilistraee, they began to slaughter them in their cells. I heard the screams of defenseless victims being slaughtered, and the executioners doing it with the name of Bhaal on their mouth. That was not in the agreement. Drow, one of the worshippers who came for me, said it was Bhaal's will that they should die. But they won't take my life, a sister in the fate, and then he led me to the matrons, who were in ambush with his brothers. He was clearly in bloody ecstasy. At that moment I was so furious that when he turned around, I plunged the blade into his back and slit his throat. There was no time to waste, and I ran away in a frenzy before anyone realized what I had done. Chaos of the battle between the Drowmans and their priestesses that was taking place at that time allowed me to escape. I ran until I reached the surface. Covered in blood, I lost awareness. I woke up among the light elves. They recognized me as the merchant's fellow Drow, Eilistraee, and friend. It turned out that while I was in captivity, my elven settlement of Eilistraee underground was also attacked by Loth Drow and destroyed. I was evacuated on horseback to their village in the high forest. Traumatic experiences haunted me for a long time, and thanks to the elven healing magic, I managed to partially repress them into the darkest corners of my mind. For a while, I lived with the elves in their idyll, but my inner voice clearly suggested that this wasn't my place. Someone or something was waiting for me in the city called Baldur's Gate. Thanks to my fighting skills, I managed to get hired as a caravan guard for human merchants trading with the light elves who were traveling in the direction I was interested in. Upon reaching the city, I separated myself from my employers to follow my inner voice and find the source of my turmoil. However, what I discovered exceeded my wildest expectations. The majestic temple of Bhaal, the Lord of Mordor to whom I had sworn allegiance there in the High Forest, stood open before me. At an audience with the Mordor Tribunal, headed by Saravok, I was recognized that the blood of the Bhaal flows in my veins. Apparently, I was not the child of the one I called father, but my mother had conceived me by committing adultery with one of them. Such a background came with privileges such as one's own chamber and a butler. There was no turning back, and I agreed to accept a new way of life. After a ceremony in which I reaffirmed my dedication to serve my one true father and Lord Bhaal, I concluded the Pact of the Blade with him. As a part of it, I was gifted with a very unique blade, Crimson Mischief, a light one-handed weapon that allows me to tear enemies into tiny pieces. In addition, I gained special skills such as a set of spells and the ability to regenerate health from flesh blood stains from my victims. I accepted my new self and the sacred mission that now rested upon me. During one more operation that involved the bloody sacrifice of innocent city dwellers to the Lord of Mordor, I was kidnapped by mind flayers. It all happened so fast. The painful experiences of being kidnapped, held in the tight capsule and experimented caused the past to become completely foggy. I can't say who I really am and where I come from. A tadpole of mind flayers had taken up residence in my brain with the purpose of making me one of them. My transformation into an Illithid was interrupted by an attack on the ship by a force of Gith. With the help of one of them, Lazel, I managed to get to the control panel and cause the ship to crash on one of the Faerunian beaches. In all of this chaos, I fell off the ship, encountering along the way the Illithid known as the Emperor, the main culprit for my condition. I would have shattered as I fell full force onto the beach if not for a mysterious force that caught me just before I hit the ground. With the warlock's skill set and companions I meet along the way who share my fate, I must survive and return to Baldur's Gate at all costs. That's all I wanted to say about my character. When creating her, I was inspired by the legend of the Forgotten Realms universe, such as Drizzt Do'Urden, a drow with lavender-purple eyes, raised among the followers of the Spider Queen Love, who rejected her teachings and had the courage to follow his own path. Thank you for your attention.